time to perk up in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Today we're going to go through all the best perks and talk about the skills that you should be leveling up early in the game to maximize your success. Let's go! Let me know your favorite perk in the comments down below. By the way, you can reset your perks at any time by drinking the Lithian water potion. You can craft this, you can buy it. All you need to do is drink it and it'll actually reset all of your perks. You'll still keep your skills at the same level. You'll just be able to spend those perk points again if you want to make changes or if you want to follow what we're talking about here in this video. We shall start with the best main stat perks. Now this is like main level, strength, agility, vitality, and speech. Those like main stats. Starting with main level, there's a couple of choices that you'll make here where you'll pick one perk and it'll lock you out of the other. One of the main ones that I wanted to talk about is Martin's Heritage versus Radzig's Heritage. Now for Martin's Heritage, you will improve faster in sword fighting, crafting, and survival, as all your experience with these will be gained by 10% higher. Now with Radzig's, it's heavy weapon, shooting, and scholarship. This option here, and for your combat skills, which we'll talk about when we get to them as well, is dependent on what you choose to use as your main weapon. If you're using a heavy weapon like a mace, an axe, warhammer, something like that, you definitely want to go Radzig's line to get that improvement up, as well as the shooting, but also scholarship, which is a very important stat in KCD2. But if you are mostly using a sword, then Martin's Heritage is the option you want to go, because you get that extra benefit to sword fighting as well as crafting and survival. It really, for me, I believe you should make this choice based on whether you're using sword fighting or heavy weapons mostly. And for me, because I'm using a sword, Martin's Heritage is the option that I went. Driven by Vengeance is another fantastic main level perk. Now, after killing an opponent in combat, you gain 10% more attack damage and faster stamina recovery. This effect lasts 30 seconds. Most of the fight encounters that you come across in the game, you'll be fighting more than one enemy. So having this trigger after you defeat one to get extra damage, but also stamina recovery, which is huge in combat, is absolutely fantastic to pick up early in the game as well. Two others in the main line I wanted to call out that you should grab as soon as they become available. Firstly is Heroic Vigor. Each level of vitality adds one extra stamina point. Stamina is so important to your success in combat. Whether you're swinging a weapon, you're dodging, you're blocking, all that stuff, you're going to use that stamina. If you've got more stamina than the enemy, you'll absolutely see more success. And I'm also a big fan of well built. So as your strength increases, your carry capacity increases faster. For each level of strength, you gain 12 points of carry capacity instead of the usual 10. Everything is really heavy in this game. So the higher your carry capacity, the better, especially if you're going to be equipping 4 weapons into your like weapon belt. Those are going to be quite heavy. So the higher carry capacity you have, the easier it is to carry stuff, so you can then go and sell it or just lug around all of your goods. Let's cover a couple of strength perks. Now, one you want to grab is Train Hard, Fight Easy, both 1 and 2. So the required strength for all weapons will be 2 less for you. In general, if you have a lower strength than the weapon requires, you will deal less damage with it. Conversely, if your strength is higher, you'll deal more damage. Fantastic set of perks to grab for the early game, so you can then equip more higher level strength requirement weapons earlier. But then also, once your strength does get substantially higher, you'll do more damage. So always will be beneficial for you to grab these perks very early in the game. I'm also a big fan of like Hardworking Lad, Pack Mule, and Strong as a Bull. Essentially, this is mostly just for that carry capacity increase. We already touched on why that's important. The other perks in the strength line are really dependent if you are using blunt weapons or shield. So something like those heavy weapons from Radzig's Heritage that we were talking about earlier. If you are using those, obviously grab those perks, but otherwise they're like less beneficial. Agility is next. Now, Deft Hands 1 and 2 are important for the exact same reason that the strength variant is, so it lowers the requirement for agility for these weapons. And then if your agility is above that point, you'll do extra damage. Creeping Phantom is also good. When sneaking, your movement will be 15% faster. Can't go wrong there. And then if you are using a lot of slashing weapons, grabbing Finesse, or say piercing weapons, and grabbing Viper is also important. Just depends on your chosen weapon usage. Vitality, there are 2 perks in the Vitality line that I wanted to call out. One of them you can get very early in the game. That's Thick Blooded. You will bleed noticeably slower. Still, if you don't bandage up, you'll die eventually. You'll just have more time. Very good for avoiding bleeding, which is a massive problem if you are bleeding out and you're still fighting. You can't bandage yourself in the middle of a fight, so it does make that process a lot easier. Also, next to Godliness is one of the best perks that I think I've used. So washing at a tub or a pier or taking a bath in a bathhouse will cure you 10 points of your health. Plus, if you go to bed clean, you'll heal 25% faster while you sleep. The main thing here is that when you wash, you get that 10 points of health. I can't tell you how many times that I have been in a fight or I'm just wandering around town and I'm missing like a slither of health. This will help you just maximize that health and actually fill it all the way. Also, something to note here is that if you have clothes in different outfits that are all dirty, you can wash yourself with one of the outfits, put on the second outfit, wash yourself again. That's 20 points of health for free just for washing yourself in a basin, which you should be doing anyway. We should also wash every day. There's a few good speech perks that we will call out. Firstly, Silver Tongue, you get a +4 bonus when haggling, making it easier to negotiate better prices. Obviously, this will save you a ton of groschen in the long run. It doesn't seem like much when you say you're haggling with people for like 1 to 2 to 10 groschen, but ultimately across like a long playthrough, if you're doing this a lot, you're going to save yourself a bunch of groschen. You're going to earn yourself even more by haggling the price that you're selling gear. Very beneficial. Jack of all trades is great as well. So you gain a bonus of +2 to skill checks. You'll also get twice the amount of experience from these skill checks. Fantastic just for the bonuses to skill checks, as there are a lot of skill checks in this game. You will be doing that a lot, so that +2 will never set you wrong. And then a really good combat combo that I absolutely love is Battle Cry and Dreaded Warrior. So Battle Cry, if you use Battle Cry during combat, you deal 10% more damage. This effect lasts 20 seconds. And then Dreaded Warrior, if you use Battle Cry during a fight, not only will it give you more courage, but it also puts fear in your enemy's veins. As a result, their morale will decrease. They're more likely to give up, run away, or just generally find it harder to fight you. Just a great combo, as you can Battle Cry very easily by just like bringing up the speak and then Battle Crying. I've used this in a bunch of combat encounters just to get that extra 10% damage. Hugely beneficial just to give yourself free extra damage, especially if you're fighting a large group of people. Scaring a couple of them away isn't a bad thing by reducing their morale, but also just that extra damage is always fantastic. Speaking of combat, we'll cover some combat perks here. Now, combat for the most part here is going to be dependent on the weapon you're using. Like obviously if you're using swords a lot, you're going to want to invest in those sword skills and those perks, same as heavy weapons or whatever that line is. But make sure you are doing the training with the masters to learn their combos, as well as increase your skill with that weapon. Now you can ask them to train you and just increase that skill by paying some groschen, or you can ask them to fight, which will also increase your skill, which is very beneficial to do in the early game, as the lower your skills with these weapons are, it does make a significant difference to your overall combat output, and it's a big struggle in the early game. I'm going to save a bit more of an in-depth breakdown of each of the weapon types, their strengths and weaknesses for their own video, but we will cover some warfare perks, which are general across the board, regardless of your weapon usage. Firstly, Hardened Veteran 1 and 2. So in combat, your stamina will regenerate 10% faster. This is fantastic because everything in combat is required to use stamina. Blocking, dodging, attacking, even trying to get combos off and actually not running out of stamina by the time you get like that third strike in the combo. Very beneficial to have more stamina and have that regen higher as well, so that you can continue to fight much sooner. Ironclad is a good one that doesn't immediately seem useful, but it actually is. So the weight of your armor you wear affects your speed of movement and how much stamina sprinting depletes. Using this perk, your armor will weigh you down 20 pounds less, thus having a lesser effect on your stamina. Neither the actual weight of the armor nor character capacity will change, however. But the main reason you want to use this is for wearing heavy armor. So the further you get in the game, the more heavier the armor you will wear is, because you'll find like better pieces, or say you'll be actually wearing a piece in like every single one of those slots, and it'll be significantly heavier, especially once you get like a chest piece like Curious that will be a lot heavier. So lowering the actual like weight of these weapons so your stamina recovers a lot faster. It also allowing you to sprint and move is very beneficial in fights when you are outnumbered, so you can actually move yourself into a more beneficial position quicker. Speaking of fighting multiple enemies, there is a 3 perk combo that's fantastic here. Unbreakable, if you are outnumbered in a fight, your stamina will recover 20% faster. One Man Army, when you're outnumbered in a fight, you deal 10% more damage, and against all odds, when fighting against superior numbers, you gain a +2 bonus to strength, agility, warfare skills. The first 2 are the main 2 that I do recommend. Stamina, because you're going to be blocking a lot when you are outnumbered. That helps keep that stamina up. Plus, just dealing 10% more damage allows you to defeat enemies faster. Cannot go wrong there. The best secondary perks. Now, this is a big line, but we have a few perks that we'll go through for most of these that are well worth getting. Something to note here is that scribes can actually sell you books that you can read to increase a lot of your secondary skills. Definitely worth doing to go and buy some books, read them, and then you can just sell them again once you've read them. Obviously, you will lose a bit of groschen from that, but it definitely helps you get these skills up faster so you can unlock some of these perks earlier. Firstly, in the alchemy line, let's talk about Secret of Matter. Every time you successfully brew a potion, you get an additional potion of the same quality, and then if you get the second tier of that, you get even more additional potions as well. This essentially replaces like the auto brew from KCD1, it means you'll get more just for doing it once. So a lot of the times if I need to make a potion, I'll just go and craft it once and I'll get like 6 of them just for that one crafting, which is really great to do. Water of life is fantastic. So healing potions like the marigold decoction will heal you 25% faster. This is great because now you can actually put them on your belt so you can use it while you're actively fighting someone, which will then allow you to get that health back in the middle of combat and not die as easily. Secrets of secrets. If you follow the recipe precisely and your brewing time is perfect, you can brew potions of exceptional quality. So what this means is you will typically have like say a weak version of a potion, a normal version, and then the strong version of that potion. This will unlock like a Henry's version, which is significantly higher, better value. Now this is fantastic for like the marigold decoction, so you get an extra 20 points of health for that recovery, but also anything across the board, it will just improve its overall effects. So well worth actually getting this perk. Craftsmanship is mostly focused on blacksmithing and maintaining your gear. It's only really useful if you're actually doing a lot of your own gear maintaining, which I haven't found to be as much of an issue here as it was in KCD1, as there are so many repair vendors like everywhere. And then blacksmithing, there's only really one perk I want to call out. So firstly, we'll talk about locksmith, which is useful for everyone. So when picking locks, your thievery skill will count as 3% higher, so it'll make it easier. Plus, when you craft something at a forge, you'll get some lock picks out of it, so beneficial there as well. But also Martin's secret, you'll now be able to forge weapons of the 4th, i.e. the highest quality. Weapons of this quality cannot be obtained in any other way than by forging them yourself, and their strength and effectiveness is unmatched. So this will then allow you to craft weapons of that highest tier. Fantastic for combat use because they'll obviously deal more damage and have better effectiveness, but also great for selling because they'll be worth more. So if you're using a lot of blacksmithing to create some groschen for yourself in the game, definitely worth doing. Drinking and horsemanship, I don't have any specific ones here. Obviously, if you want to drink a lot of alcohol in the game, drinking perks are fantastic. Same with horsemanship. Now, horsemanship will probably become more interesting once the horse racing has actually been properly implemented into the game in one of those future updates. But I do want to talk about one perk in the Houndmaster line, well, actually multiple. But firstly is Defender. In combat, Mutt will be tougher and will take 10% less damage from enemies, and Sikkim is also great for the same reason because Mutt will essentially act as like your companion when you're fighting a lot of enemies. We talked about how difficult that is a little bit earlier in this video when you do have multiple enemies on you. This will allow Mutt to stay in that fight for a lot longer and actually damage enemies and pull at least one enemy away from you where he's like fighting someone and then you can fight someone. It just helps balance those situations out when you're outnumbered. I also really like Bark. This is good for stealth. So you've taught Mutt to create a ruckus and draw attention to himself. This can be handy, especially when you need to sneak somewhere unnoticed. You can now get him to bark by selecting the relevant command under commands. Now this is great if you have people around an area that you want to sneak into or access. You can have Mutt go into a certain location and bark, pull enemies over there. Then you've got free access to the door or the chest or whatever you're trying to get access to. It does actually become useful when you're trying to do some sneaky stuff in towns. Scholarship is the next one. Now, by the way, you can increase your scholarship stat by reading any book. It doesn't have to be a skill book. So anytime you pick up a book or find a book, well worth just reading it to increase this stat for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because liberal arts is one of the best perks in the game. You're able to recognize the difficulty of skill checks, but not your chances of succeeding. You'll still have to decide for yourself whether it's worth the risk. The effect of your reputation isn't taken into account in the displayed difficulty. So this is an important one because you will do a lot of skill checks in the game. It's very common, and being able to see how hard that skill check is quite important, because when you are looking at these screens where they say like what your actual stat is up the top and then they have that option, just because your stat is high here doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to pass that check, especially if it's a very hard check. This allows you to see how hard that check is going to be to pass. Now, it's so beneficial because if you do fail these checks, you do lose a bit of reputation, so it does help. It also allows you to know if you're trying to convince someone to give you something like a piece of information or an item, what have you. That knowledge is really helpful. Fundamentals of Medicine 1 and 2 are both fantastic. The first level of this, bandages will be 25% more effective and the healing effects of food will be doubled, but you also recover faster when sleeping, so you will take less time to fully heal. Both of these are beneficial for your overall healing aspects of the game, which is something that is quite hard to do to maintain. So the more perks you can have that lean into this, the better. And I'm a big fan of Fundamentals of Theology. You'll be able to pray at shrines, crosses, and similar places. If you do so, you'll receive a buff that can protect you from mortal injury in combat and restore 25% of your health. The effect lasts for 12 in-game hours. Fantastic if you know there's going to be quite a challenging quest or area that you're going to. Use this perk. That'll then allow you to survive a mortal hit. There is actually a vitality version of this called Die Hard, which essentially essentially does the same thing. It just doesn't require you to pray. It's a bit of a later game perk, but if you can get that perk as well, both of these are fantastic. Moving on to stealth, there's only one I wanted to call out here called Quick Hand. You can be very stealthy when picking locks and pickpocketing people from a distance. No one will notice you. Fantastic for pickpocketing and doing that goodness in the Kuttenberg area, because there's a lot of people walking around. It will definitely help you in those sneaky habits. Survival, nothing specific I wanted to call out here. Like if you're doing survival stuff, definitely beneficial. Master Fletcher is the only one I wanted to call out specifically as like a general perk, because your arrows and bolts have better ballistic properties, so they fly faster, travel further, and have more penetration. Definitely great to pick up. Last but certainly not least is Thievery. Now, Thievery has some fantastic perks for the thieves, obviously, but one thing to note that's different from KCD1 is that because pickpocketing and lockpicking are together now under this one perk, you level them both up together, so you can pick up some fantastic perks for both. Silent Fiddler, absolutely amazing. Grab this super early. You're almost silent when using a lockpick, and if it happens to break, the sound will be 75% quieter. Great for lockpicking, especially at night, so you're not making any noise. And Rapid Flight is fantastic early perk for pickpocketing. If you fail to successfully return through the doorway box during thieving minigame, you won't steal anything, but your victim won't notice you. This perk has a 3-minute cooldown. This is absolutely huge when you're trying to learn to pickpocket and build up that pickpocketing skill, so you can actually get more seconds in the minigame. Really good, because it will give you like one free fail where you won't actually get caught trying to steal. Very beneficial to have. And also, once you get this skill way up and you're essentially a master thief, the master thief perk is great. So you unlock simple locks almost instantly without the need for the minigame activation or committing a crime. Just great for very easy locks, so you can just like let yourself into people's homes and, you know, not make any noise and just kind of speed up that process a little bit. But that is all of the main perks I wanted to call out for you today. You can unlock essentially like every perk in the game once you do hit max level, but the ones that we talk about today are the ones that I do recommend you go and get first once they do become available to you. But let me know what your favorite perks are in the game, any other tips and tricks you've come across. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is Norza, and I hope you have a great day.